We are
Didi
and Arma, and in our daily lives, we support people on the path of self-liberation. We teach time-tested energy skills like Qigong, Tai Chi, internal alchemy, traditional nutrition, and meditation.
We help people release stagnation, build energy, and become aligned with themselves and their purpose in life.
In this podcast, we share the methods, skills, and solutions that helped us, our students, and now hopefully you move forward.
Let's explore transformation together.
So what we're talking about today?
We're talking about meditation.
Yes, meditation. Some misconceptions and methods. So,
Sounds great.
yeah, that sounds great. So from experience, our own experience, and also teaching experience. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So what was your first experience with meditation?
It was not per se the seated meditation most people are, familiar with. It was standing negung or qigong, as it's also called. So that's part of Tai Chi training, what I did, and it's all about standing in a pretty low position and adjusting your body and standing there for 20 minutes and having trembling legs and looking for great alignment and fighting with yourself. It was pretty brutal training, which brought me a lot because I did it like 8-9 years straight and 20 minutes a day. So, I was really confronted with that, with myself, but it was not per se the traditional meditation. I started doing that with my teacher a little bit later on, not too much, but I started experimenting with it. And then later I got, with my second teacher, Sifu Mark Rasmus, we really got into meditation, and it was more in the Hermetic tradition. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And so when I'm listening to you, the first thing that comes up in my mind is like, when do we call things meditation? What is meditation?
I think meditation is like a word that it didn't start with the word. It started with people, on one hand, doing mindfulness training, and the other hand, concentration trainings in different esoteric traditions, in religions, and I think, and then they started calling that meditation to sort of wrap it up, because in most traditions you see these two, right? You see meditation training, mindfulness training and concentration training, and these two will lead to higher awareness of yourself, more stillness and relaxation and everything. Yeah. So I think that's what you could call meditation. But I think a lot of people have also their own opinions about that, which is fine, but I come more from the traditional approach, and I think there's something in there, because if something is, tradition can have to, it can be like, they're stuck in their tradition, or, or it can have like, okay, but these methods seem to work, have been working for thousands of years. So, and so that's a very long answer to that question. Sorry.
No. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So, and your adventures with meditation, Didi?
Yeah. Well, of course, I did some meditation training with you. But while doing them, I look back at when I was 16, I went to Thailand for a year to be an exchange student. And my family were Buddhist, as most of them are there. And we would go to the temple. And we would sit there for sometimes 20 minutes, but sometimes an hour on the floor, which was like hardwood or stone or whatever. And especially when I first arrived, this was so hard for me, because you would just sit there and you would sit in one position with your hands folded.
Wow.
And sometimes the monks were chanting and
doing their rituals.
And you would just sit there, and I felt my body ache all the time, and I was really tempted to run away or do something else.
But like you say, you never really knew how long it was gonna be.
No.
Right?
Especially when I first came there, I didn't speak any of the language. So it was kind of just going along and you would just see what's happening.
Yeah.
So but doing this and just coming along, I had no choice. That was something else. I had no choice. I would just go along. There was
no choice.
No choice. But after a while, and in the beginning, I would not be into what was happening. I would just be fighting with myself and being able to just go through the whole thing. But when I was there for a little bit longer and being more, well, in Thailand, you sit on the floor most of the time. So you would train this at all time, not just in the temple, just at home, at school. We would sit on the floor all the time. So I was training how to sit on the floor.
Sure. Yeah.
And
getting stronger, getting used to the aches, I guess, from your ankles.
And after a while, going to the temple was much better. And I would enjoy the just sitting there and also to be in the ritual, to be in the situation.
I think it's really beautiful what you're saying, because I think, and that's one of the things, is that we maybe get into that a little bit later, but there's discomfort, and then you grow through the discomfort and you become stiller.
Yeah.
That sums up Buddhism, right? Right there, right? Look at the lotus flower going through the mud and coming at the surface.
And the funny thing is, nobody ever mentioned that this would be mindfulness or meditation. It was just years later coming back, and I would start yoga and doing the training with you. I would think, I've done this before. I've gone through this before.
I know this. Yeah.
I know this. And, but being much more aware and purposeful with what you're doing, it worked really well for me to go to these steps.
And it's pretty funny because you weren't given clear instruction or something, or like a path to go or something. You were just following along, and then you get used to it, and that's beautiful. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's start with some of the misconceptions I see, right? Because I teach meditation, and I come across people who have experience with it. But a lot of people give up pretty quickly in the beginning. Yeah. And they give up because they cannot be still.
They feel that they have the choice. No.
But they want to start there. They want to start like, okay, I shouldn't be thinking, right? I shouldn't be thinking. I need to sit here and not think. Well, good luck with that. That's not going to work. And it's certainly not what you want to do. In the beginning, right? So, and the other thing I see a lot is that people have their own versions of what meditation is. And I'm not saying I'm the expert here, right? And I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but lying meditation and sitting on a soft bed or hanging in a comfy chair or having all this music on or, with your app and also a lot of the guided meditation are not necessarily, and I'm saying not necessarily because I'm not saying they're bad per se, but they might not bring you the skill you're actually looking for, and the skills that people have all this time been looking for, and that's how these traditions have evolved in looking at how can we achieve this stillness by going through certain things. And I mean, and a lot of the things that you see now are actually not about that at all, because people cannot sit still.
I think what a lot of people think meditation is for is to be more relaxed.
Yeah.
And I've done a lot of meditation training, and it's not being relaxed. It's more focused in the moment
Relaxation is the byproduct
Yeah.
of the training. Just like stillness is the byproduct of the
Yeah.
training, right? So let's start with the methods, right? What you see in most traditions. Okay, the first thing is mindfulness. But what is that? What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is the skill to observe something without touching it, mentally, emotionally, right?
Yeah.
So, and that starts with your own thoughts. So instead of sitting down and having no thoughts, and it's about you observing your own thoughts from a higher perspective. And that opens a gap between you as the observer and the things that you observe in yourself. The thoughts that come and go, the emotions that come along with those, but they go hand in hand. And then also the physical reactions on that, like holding your breath or maybe tensing the shoulders or whatever. You are just observing yourself, like hanging in a little helicopter above yourself. And it's like, what's going on, right? Yeah. And then what will happen is that silence will also appear, because there's not always thoughts. There's not always these emotions. There's also stillness will arise by itself.
Yeah. And
then stillness becomes the byproduct. And this is a skill not only for you on your pillow or on your chair. This is a skill for life.
Yeah.
Because we, as human beings, are so used to touch everything that comes along in our minds, and we start creating things around them, is that we create our own suffering. Right?
Yeah.
So we have an outside experience of something, and then that keeps living in us, and then we start creating stories about that, and then we don't feel good. Because mostly sometimes it does feel good, but the tendency is mostly that we're not going to feel good.
Yeah.
Negativity takes over. So the skill to observe without touching starts in yourself, but then starts in situations, starts with other people. So you're actually building a skill for real life that's going to help you lead a more aware life, a more present life, more in the moment life, and not being a collector of negative experiences. Yeah. Right?
So it's also a skill to, even now that we're doing this, to be completely here and to be mindful in the moment.
Yeah, more and more. I mean, I have learned not to fight with the thoughts that appear, right? It's not like you have a score. It's like, okay, there's another thought. Oh, damn. It's like, I had a bad day. I had a lot of thoughts. No, it's not about that. Yeah. Thoughts will come and they will go, and life is like a hilly landscape because things will happen. Yeah. There's outside influences, there's your own reactions, but are you touching those reactions inside yourself? So some days are more quiet, some days are more, more dynamic, some days are, they're a challenge. Yeah. But you train this skill over a long period of time, and you will be quicker in releasing. You see, I'm touching, right? Oh, and by seeing yourself touching something, it's like then the releasing is already happening. Right? And that is the training. It's like, I'm holding on to something. Now it goes. And what happens? There's more relaxation. There's awakening there, etc. And these moments become more in your life. And sometimes it's like, okay, I know these thoughts are there, but I'm just not touching them. I don't have to react all the time. Yeah. Right? And that starts with yourself, but that will also happen in situations, or you read something, or someone is saying something, or someone is challenging you, into a discussion. You're like, I don't have to go there.
Yeah.
And silence and the stillness will accumulate around that, because there's not always thoughts. And behind the thoughts, there's stillness. So the stillness will be a natural result of the training. It's not what we're looking for in the beginning. It's what we recognize by learning to, like, I have this distance. There's the thoughts, emotions, physical things, but over there's no thoughts. And then more and more you can choose where you want to go.
Wow.
And having a choice on that, there's no pills for that. If I had a pill for that, how much could I sell that for?
Wow. You would be...
$1 million, easily. People would buy it. If I had a pill that would create this sort of distance and stillness. But the thing is, people, you have to do that for yourself.
Yeah.
You have to learn that, right? And one thing that's really important for that is the spine. There's a physical aspect to that. Because why are all these sitting positions so important? And where, if you're sitting in a lotus position or on a chair, that doesn't matter too much. What's most important is that your spine is aligned and supported. But Didi, why would that be, do you think? What would create that?
Well, you're active, you're sitting open. Well, talking about it, I'm starting to sit up. Well, you're more active, so you can be more present. When I'm sitting like this, there is no flow in my body.
Right. There's no stillness.
No.
So an open spine, training the spine in this position, and having a strong support for this spine, trains stillness in the body.
Yeah.
And this will translate to more concentration, more awareness, more stillness. And so it's very important that you sit on something that supports you and you have a straight spine. It's so important. So lying down on your bed is not concentrating.
No. It can be nice, but it's not
It's great for sleeping.
Yeah, it's great for sleeping.
And sitting on your bed and meditating, you're going to fight with yourself constantly, right?
That's hard to sit up straight on
You
your
cannot
bed.
sit straight on a soft thing. You just cannot. It's impossible, right? So that's a really, really important part of the training. And so the next thing that you see in most traditions is concentration exercises. So concentrating on an object. And for a lot of people, the first object can be the spine.
Yeah.
Is your position and how am I sitting? And that will lead to, hey, there's awareness of the breath, right? Oh, wow. I go in and out and then you start following this breath. And that will lead to one-point concentration maybe on objects outside of you. It's like on a rock or on a tree. Or how can you remain this focus and this stillness that accumulates around this concentration for longer periods of time? This is going to help you as a human being, being concentrated.
Yeah. Wow.
See, so on one hand you have this mindfulness training, on the other hand they have this concentration training. And these two, they build up to stillness.
Yeah.
And skill.
Is that also what you do with the tree training, or?
Well, there's a bunch of tree training, but you can, if you have an object that you concentrate on, why not make it a natural object?
Something,
right? Something that lives, right? So that can definitely help. But there's all sorts of tree training. Trees are giant.
Yeah. Energy
beings, right? So training with trees is just awesome.
Yeah.
But looking at a tree, because you're talking about a tree, let's talk about a tree and Buddha.
Yeah.
Because you cannot separate the Buddha and the tree, And that's what Mark Rasmus always says. So the credit goes to him for this. Is that the tree is such a big part of his awakening. And why would that be? Didi, would you know?
That's a good question. No, I don't know. I don't know.
What happens when you go into a forest?
Oh,
what happens with your?
Oh, well, your.
With you.
There's a lot of stillness. It just, you feel so connected to everything around you. I especially remember one time when we were in France, there was this forest which was so desolate. There was no one around, and we walked into this forest, and it was just.
It was almost eerie, like it was like from whoa, wow, there's trolls here and hobbits or something like that. It was.
But you felt like there was nothing else beside us walking in that forest.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So what happens is that your awareness, your mind expands.
yeah,
Pretty simple, because there's so much energy there. These trees are so large energy beings that your mind is opened as well when you go. It's pretty hard to be completely in your problems in your own head while being in a forest, because these trees, they just pull your energy open, right? So, and that's pretty important, because what happens when you become stiller and stiller is that the mind will expand automatically, and it will move away from where you normally are. It's like contracted into your head, into your thoughts, into your emotions, and the body will tense up and everything. It might not be extreme, but it is happening. So what happens when you go in the forest is this, it expands, but it will also expand from the training. So putting an object outside. So you start with your breath as an object, for concentration, your spine, but you move outside of the body and you say, okay, there's a tree there. And you start connecting your focus on this tree and letting it rest with this tree. So eyes open here, right? What happens is that your mind will expand, and your mind it's formless, right? It can be anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and that's such a liberating feeling, because the spirit will open. Because how does the spirit represent itself in us?
Wow, you have all these great questions. Testing me. You tell us.
Okay.
You can explain it much better.
It's the observer. So it's right there from the start. All mindfulness training. By the way, if you hear some scraping, it's snowing crazy, so we cannot help that. Some people are just scraping their lawns and everything, because. But I hope it's not too loud. But we won't touch it. Okay. But the observer in us is right there, present in the beginning. We observe how we sit, we observe our thoughts, we observe our feelings, and then we become more and more aware of the observer itself, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's very important, because the spirit can come out, and the spirit will come out in a large mental space automatically. That's because that's where the spirit wants to be, right? It uses your body and your emotions and your feelings to have this physical life, right? And but we get lost in the lower parts of our consciousness, and we get lost there, and we get a false identity of who we are, and then that's where the trouble starts, because this lower mind is just creating and touching and thinking and wondering why, and needs to explain everything, while the spirit just wants to be present, right? So are we in the way of that? Okay, so we have this mindfulness training, we have this concentrating training, and both lead to the spirit coming out. So then from a certain point, you know exactly where no thoughts are. Right? You learned that from that training already. So the third part is no thoughts. So you don't start with no thoughts, you end up with no thoughts. Or let me say this, it's not a problem that you have the thoughts will come and go. It's more is that you will be able to move to a place where they are not, and have longer periods of your spirit being here present. And what falls away, all your troubles fall away. Everything is great. Energy builds, that's pretty important. Qigong is a large part of this as well. When you're present, energy will accumulate. When you're in thinking, you have leakage.
Oh yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
When you're in the all the emotions and stuff and busy with everything, there's a lot of energy going into that direction. Yeah.
It's just like you turn open a tap and it's just streaming, right? And that's for most people is their day-to-day life. Yeah, sadly.
And that's of course a great thing with building energy is first to take away the leakages that you have.
Sure, I recognize where you're not still.
Yeah.
So that's why I cannot, having a strong body and an open spine will lead to this stillness and this awareness, because it's all about this stillness that will accumulate around you. And then, but bringing it, I was thinking about, food, herbs and everything, and your experience with them. It's also all about this mindfulness. It's like, okay, how does this taste? What does it do in my body? How does this feel? How does it feel the next day? And being present with that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think food is such a great way, or eating is a great way of being mindful. Like cooking, being with your food, preparing it, and really be into what you what you will take into your body.
Can I say something about that? I think everything what we're talking about today is firstly and mostly supported by the food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at all these special diets that the Buddhists have or anything, to take away the young, and making, helping their stillness, their focus and everything.
And it's interesting, like, I was talking to a client yesterday about that what we try to do is, from a traditional Chinese medicine standpoint, is to support the energy that's around you. So to connect to the energy of the day, energy of the month. But so when you wake up, and this is beautiful, when you look at how the monks live in Thailand, they get up very early and they collect their food, and then they eat. Or first every day they meditate. That's the first thing they do in their day.
They rise, shine, and meditate.
And then they kind of collect their food. And then they eat. Then they do their tasks. Then they prepare for lunch. And that's them with food.
That's it, right? No eating after lunch, right?
No. And it's actually the spleen and the stomach are active in the morning. Between 7 and 9 is the spleen. And 9 to 11 is the stomach. And then that's the time to digest. And afterwards, if it's getting later, there is time to really digest and not to put too much pressure on that part of the organs anymore. You have time to do the work that you need to do and to be more still with yourself.
Yeah.
And that really is in flow with your day, the energy of the day.
Oh, totally. So, through all these years of training and meditating, is like one of the most important things has been diet. Because I could why is there so much noise in my head? And why is it so hard not to touch on some days, right? It's like, oh, I've eaten sugar, oh, I've eaten this, all this stuff.
Well, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, do we eat what we need to eat for having a good body and a strong body, having enough vital energy? But also, if you want to do meditation and you eat a lot of very spicy food, that will be a very big challenge for you.
Absolutely.
That will create so much movement into your system. It will be so hard to sit still, to concentrate.
It's the foundation of your concentration. I mean, the concentration is like the pinnacle of your being. So, but it's being fed, or it's not being fed, right? Yeah. But I think that's another podcast, Didi.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to do that one, because I think people, if you made it so far, people, you need to know this. You just need to know about food. You need to not about the vitamins per se, but just the effect that it has on your concentration and what's stirring it up, what calms you, and everything. Yeah. So, what do you think? We're going to make one.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
It's a great one. And I hope this already helped a little bit about meditation, why it is not have the separation, about not having thoughts, or observing the thoughts. That's a very basic thing to start with. And I hope you got that from this podcast.
So exactly, people, remember, there's nothing wrong with thoughts.
No.
They're part of you, but can you be in alignment with these thoughts, and can you cooperate with your, that part of you? That's the most important thing, right? And
Perfect.
be able not to touch it. So, good luck.
Yeah.
Have a good time, and like and subscribe if you like this stuff. And we'll be back soon.
Absolutely.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.